Volleyball comes to a close.
And men's basketball is on a road trip.
All this and more coming up on the Penguin Rundown. Welcome in, everyone, here to the Penguin Rundown. I'm Bryce Noel, alongside my partner in crime here, Cameron Stubbs. And Cameron, it's already Thanksgiving break coming up here in a couple days. Sports are getting rolling, rocking and rolling, and sports are coming to a close.
Yeah, we got some good food coming in, but we also have sports to talk about, so let's get into that.
Absolutely. As this past Friday, the women's basketball team took a short trip on I-76 as they traveled to Akron to take on the Zips. Despite a 20-6 first quarter won by Youngstown State, Akron would storm back to take home the match by a score of 61-44. The Penguins scored the game's first 11 points, but were set back by the Zips winning the second quarter 17-4 and the third quarter 23-6. It was a tough night shooting the ball as they were just 31% from the field and only made one shot from downtown. They were, however, able to go 10 of 19 from 2 and out, rebounded Akron 39-36. Senior Lily Ritz led all scorers with 23 points as she shot 11 for 16 with 9 rebounds. Malia Magestro chipped in 6 points with 2 rebounds and 1 assist, while Megan Callahan contributed 4 trays and 3 rebounds. Paige Shy also picked up 3 points, 5 boards, and 3 dimes. The Gwins finished a 3-game road stand last night as they traveled to Western Michigan. For stats on that game, go to YSUsports.com. They will return home this Saturday when they host St. Francis Brooklyn. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m., and you can listen to the game on 1390 WNIO.
The men's basketball team is in the midst of a 5-game road trip as they started off with a 2-game stint in Annapolis, Maryland, taking on UC San Diego and Navy. Versus the Tritons, the Penguins had 4 players score in double figures. Led by senior Dwayne Cohill with 18 points, the Penguins cruised to a 73-54 win. Senior Bryce McBride was second in scoring with 16 points. Graduate students Malik Green and Adrian Nelson both finished with double-doubles. A 41-17 second-half effort secured the win for head coach Jared Calhoun, who ended the day with his 200th career win and 76th with Youngstown State. Staying in Annapolis, the midshipmen were the next opponents as 5 Penguins scored in double figures, but it did not have enough firepower as they fell 80-67. Cohill, Nelson, and Green were joined by senior Brandon Rush and junior Shamar Rattan-Mays in the double figures column. A 38% field goal percentage hindered the Penguins' chances as that was the lowest of their 6 games played this season. Up next, the road trip continues as Western Illinois will welcome the Penguins into Western Hall on November 26 at 3 p.m. Watch this game on ESPN Plus or listen on 570 WKBN.
With one final playoff push, the football team returned to the Ice Castle on November 19th. YSU took on Southern Illinois on a freezing afternoon where the game time temperature was 29 degrees. On senior day, the Salukis jumped to an early 14-0 lead in the first quarter after 2 touchdown passes, but the Penguins got on the board following an 8-minute drive with a touchdown from senior Jaleel McLaughlin. No team would score again until the fourth quarter when Southern Illinois extended its lead to 21-7 after a 48-yard touchdown pass. YSU responded with nearly 200 yards of offense to score 21 unanswered points, including 2 touchdown grabs from junior Bryce Oliver. McLaughlin gave the Penguins a 28-21 lead after a 22-yard scoring run with 35 seconds left in the game, and senior Marcus Hooker sealed the game with his second interception on the afternoon. McLaughlin finished with under 100 rushing yards for just the 3rd time this season, along with 84 along with 2 scores. Junior Mitch Davidson ended the game with 268 yards with 2 scoring passes. Almost 150 yards in both scores came in the final quarter. Junior Bryce Oliver finished with a game-high 17 targets, bringing in 12 receptions for 147 yards. Here's what head coach Doug Phillips, Davison, and McLaughlin had to say about the game and the season.
We did what we needed to do to get the 7 wins. 7 wins in Missouri Valley has proven over the last 10, 12 years that you deserve a right to get into that 24 team.
I'm going to celebrate this one with my teammates. It was a big one. We'll come in tomorrow and obviously watch the film, and then from there, I don't really know. I'm happy we got a win in the Ice Castle today.
We control what we can control today. We came out and got a win, and that's what we were focused on, not focused on if we win.
Despite finishing the season 7-4, the football team season came to an end after not being voted into the FCS playoffs. Their 7 wins this season are most for YSU since the 2016 FCS runner-up season. Congrats to the men on their success this season. And now with more on the football season, we're sending it over to Kyle Wills and Andrew Peterson here at the Roundtable.
Hello guys, welcome into this week's edition of the Roundtable. I am the one, the only Andrew Peterson. I am alongside Kyle Wills, and Kyle, today we are going to be recapping the 2022 football season for YSU.
Yeah, in this past season, Drew, we saw the football team have their most wins since 2016 as they finished the season 7-4, so definitely an impressive season for the football team that was filled with a lot of success.
Yeah, one of the players that helped YSU a lot was senior running back Julio McLaughlin, as he set the NCAA rushing record for yards in a game with 227. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about his previous performance this past season?
Yeah, like you said, Drew, he has the NCAA career rushing yard record, so definitely a big accomplishment for Jaleel, and he's been a big part of this offense this season. As you look at his stats on the screen here, he averaged 7 yards per carry, and as any coach, you're going to be very impressed with having 7 yards per carry. He had 13 touchdowns, and he had not only just one game where he rushed over 200 yards, but he had 4 games, and to be able to have 4 games over 200 yards is impressive alone. And not just that, there's only 3 games this season where he didn't eclipse 1,000 or 100 yards rushing. So definitely a big season for Jaleel this year, and a big reason why the team had the success that they had offensively.
Now, halfway through the season, YSU felt like they needed to jumpstart the offense, so they brought in junior quarterback Mitch Davidson, who really stepped up for this team.
Yeah, and when the team was 2-5 at one point this season, Drew, or 2-3, and really needed to get their season turned around. So one thing they did was they got a new quarterback in Mitch Davidson, and ever since he took over under center, there was only 2 games in his starts this year where he didn't pass over 200 yards per game. And if you look at his last 6 games where this team really needed to win, he had over 200 yards passing per game. He completed nearly 60% of his passes, and he had 8 touchdown throws on top of that. And to give yourself a chance to win, one thing that you have to do is limit the turnovers. And one thing that Mitch did a great job of in the last 6 games was being able to limit that. He only had 1 interception in the last 6 games, so he did a great job of being able to limit that and give himself a chance, or give his team a chance to win these last 6 games.
Now, junior wide receiver Bryce Oliver's numbers really took a spike when Mitch came in, as he caught 59 balls for over 821 yards and 10 touchdowns. Why don't you talk to me about how he stepped up this previous season?
Yeah, and in the second half of the season, Drew, we really haven't seen the stats like we did in the first half of the season. And if you go back to the first half of the season, if he surpassed 50 yards, it'd be a rare occurrence for him. And on top of that, he only had 3 receptions through the first 5 games. And ever since Mitch has taken over under center, he has had a touchdown in every single game except for 1. And we've seen 3 games so far in the second half where he's had over 100 yards receiving. So we've definitely seen a spike in his stats since Davidson took over under center. And I mentioned Mitch being able to step up in these last 6 games. Oliver did the exact same thing. He averaged nearly 100 yards receiving per game. He had 36 receptions, and then he had 7 touchdowns. So just like Mitch, Oliver played a very big key in this offense and really opened up the passing game, because every team knows about how good Jaleel is, but when you can open up the passing game with Mitch and Oliver as the top people on the passing game, it's definitely been huge to open up the offense.
Now, as big as a part of the offense has been for YSU this past season, their defense really stepped up at opportunistic times to really help YSU win some games.
Yeah, and YSU didn't do the best of limiting the yards for the opposition, as they averaged over 350 yards per game given up, but they made big plays when they needed to. And if you look on the screen, they had 37 tackles for loss in their last 6 games. They had 16 sacks, and they gave their offense an excellent chance to score with 9 turnovers. And we've seen in the last 6 games, they've been able to score 30 to 40 points per game. And we mentioned Mitch and Oliver and Jaleel being the big people on offense to get this offense going, but to be able to give your offense or extra opportunities to score like the defense has had in the last 6 games, it's definitely been a big reason why the football team was able to take 5 of their last 6 games.
Well, from us at the Rundown, we just want to say congratulations to the football team on their success. For Andrew Peterson,
I'm Kyle Wills.
Cameron, and Bryce, back to you.
Thanks, Drew and Kyle. Now let's talk about swimming and diving as the men's and women's diving teams continued their strong performances at the 3-day West Virginia Invite that concluded on Saturday at the Aquatic Center in Milan Park. In the men's 1 meter and 3 meter dives, sophomore Simon Owaneke was the Gwyn's top scorer. Owaneke scored 235.25 in the 3 meter dive, placing 20th, and freshman Brooks Adams was 21st with a score of 221.40 in the platform dive. Freshman Zachary Lau led the way, finishing 4th, scoring a 219 to break the YSU record. For the women in the 3 meter dive, graduate students Kayla Rasman finished in 27th with a score of 219.95, and Tess Weiskopf finished in 28th with a score of 216.35. YSU's top 2 finishers in the women's 1 meter dive were Weiskopf, who finished 33rd with a score of 214.05, and sophomore Ellen Linshield, who finished 38th with a score of 207.40. In the women's platform dive, freshman Natalie Wiseman finished in 8th, scoring a 165.35, while sophomore Dasha Toth finished 14th with a score of 145.35. The men's and women's swimming and diving teams will return to action as they head to the 3-day Miami of Ohio Invitational at the Nixon Aquatic Center in Oxford, Ohio, beginning on Thursday, December 1st.
The volleyball season came to an end last Friday in the quarterfinals of the Horizon League Volleyball Championship to the hands of the Green Bay Phoenix. Despite taking the first set, the Penguins struggled to put at least 15 points on the board in the second and third set. In the fourth, YSU and Green Bay fought back and forth until the very last point, but the Phoenix would overcome YSU and win 3-1. The Penguins distributed the ball on the offensive end as 5 players struck more than 7 kills. Senior Josie Borum led the charge with 15 kills while adding 21 assists for a double-double performance. Freshman Abby Householder notched 10 kills and 8 digs, while sophomore Isabel Schaefbauer assisted on more than half of the team's kills with 27. Defensively, senior Isadora Sizic led in digs with 14, while Householder and junior Diane Malave both added 4 blocks. The volleyball team's historic season came to a close as they produced a 14-16 overall record and 8-10 conference record. A historic season does not come without recognition, as 3 Penguins were given all Horizon League honors following the regular season. Householder was named to the all-freshman team, Borum was named to the second team, while sophomore Paula Gershing was named to the first team. Gershing also earned Offensive Player of the Year and became the first ever Penguin to be named Horizon League Player of the Year. Congratulations to the girls, and best of luck in the offseason.
Last weekend, the women's bowling team competed in the Eastern Shore Hawk Classic. The Sunday finale was the biggest day for the Penguins as they went 3-0 in their best-of-7 Baker matches to finish the competition in 3rd place. The Penguins went into the last day of the Classic in 6th place looking for a big boost. The Penguins first faced Sam Houston State, where they beat the Bearcats after a 5-frame tiebreaker. YSU then went on to beat Delaware State 4-1. The highest score of the match was a 226 in Game 3. YSU completed the sweep on the day, beating Farley Dickinson 4-1, opening the match with their highest score of the day, 257. The Penguins will take an extended break from action and get ready for the spring season, which will start January 20th at the Northeast Classic. Now we'll send it over to Caleb Ellison for this week's Penguin Player of the Week.
Thanks, guys. This week's Penguin Play of the Week is going to come from junior Marcus Hooker of the football team. Let's take a look at what happened. So here in the closing seconds of last weekend's game against Illinois State, an interception right at the 30-yard line secures the win for the Penguins. We're going to take another look at it as number 11 here is playing his man defense. Hooker is right in the perfect position, playing zone defense, secures the interception and the win for the Penguins to close out the home season. Congratulations to Marcus Hooker and the rest of the football team on a great season. Best of luck in the offseason. Bryce and Cameron, back to you guys.
Thanks, Caleb. That'll just about wrap it up here at the Penguin Rundown. You can follow us on each of our social medias here on Instagram and Twitter at Penguin Rundown 1. And for live news, stats, scores, and more, you can check out YSUsports.com. I'm Bryce Noel.
And I'm Cameron Stubbs.
And as always, see you next week, Penguin Nation.